Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video. So this one is against our Runinja, our longtime compatriot and our longtime opponent. So d4, knight f6, bishop f4, d6. So what am I doing? I'm blending systems. I'm trying to make something interesting. So let's look at the game. Knight c3, I play a6. I'm playing very strangely. I'm not trying to play e5. I'm not trying to play d5. I'm not playing g6, bishop g7 like a modern or a perk. I'm playing a6 and I'm playing b5. This is a complete mistake. Do not follow me. Here's the reason why. White can play e5 here. And after I play knight f to d7, white has queen f3. I have to play rook a7. And it really depends here. Queen g3, queen e3, castles queenside. And all of a sudden you really see why this b5 move was bad, because I don't give my pieces much room to develop, right? But I try to create this counterside push. It's very dangerous, but if I'm able to develop these pieces, then in a sense, if we develop these pieces to the right squares and we get them in time, in a sense, this b5 move asserts enough space, right? It is a good move. It is a move intended to gain more space, but it's not made in the center of the board. Like I said, most conflict at the start happens at the center of the board. That I can tell you, but it's just these small things, right? It's that, the push on the side of the board just wasn't as effective as the one in the center of the board. Like if I played c5 instead of something, right? Like, for example, if I play the move knight c6, right? And I play the move e5, that's more effective than something like b5 because, like I said, white can play e5, strike the center, and that's the most important thing to do right now, is just strike in the center. The side playing b5 is it's sort of like you're partying, but you're out of the action, right? Those who party on the side of the board, they're not going to get the attention they have relative to somebody who pushes a pawn in the center of the board at the start of the game. So think of it like that. e4, b5. Remember, e5, queen f3, put pressure. That's all I'm going to say. I know that white has probably a big advantage because of this, but I'm going to go with it. So your a3 happened, and it allowed me to get back immediately into the game. Bishop b7, f3, knight bd7. Now I'm just developing here. I'm saying I could play e5, I could play c5, and if you play e5 here, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play knight h5. I'm just going to do that. And if you go back, I'm going to take on e5. Because if you take back, I'm going to take back with a knight. I'm going to get an extra pawn, be happy. But if you play queen d2, I'm just going to take that bishop because I feel like that bishop is very powerful and the least I can do is eliminate it. So instead, bishop e2 happens, and here I play e5. Takes, bishop e3, and now I say, let's go into an endgame. I'm very comfortable. Because here's the thing. Bishop takes c5, knight takes c5. And what is my plan? I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go to d4, set up an outpost, and just have some fun. Queen d2, queen e7. Nothing much. Then out of the blue, our Runinja goes for a Hail Mary. C takes, knight b6. I'm just saying, you know what? I can defend this pawn, and it'll be all fine. Bishop g5, saying, if you take with your queen, I'm going to take on c7. What do? I play c6. Bishop takes f6, g takes, knight c3, rook g8, and all of a sudden I'm not using this to castle, but rather as a very active way to counter my opponent's threats, right? So, in addition, I'm also planning this knight c4 and the knight to e3 or the bishop to e3. It really depends. g3, bring my knight into c4, queen h6, very interestingly going for this h7 pawn, and I say castle queenside because my next move is bishop e3, bishop d2, maybe knight takes b2. I'm going for it. Queen h3 check, king b8, knight e2, and now I play the move bishop to e3, saying that you can't castle this way because the bishop guards it. You can't castle this way because the bishop guards it. So rook d1 happens. I play bishop d2 check because after king f2, there is queen to c5 check, right? And if you play king f1, what am I going to do? Knight to e3 check. I'm going to take that rook. So what happens in this position? Well, the best you can do is rook takes bishop. I know, it's sad, but it's got to happen. King f2 happens, and I punish Runinja immediately by playing queen to c5. King g2, knight e3, king g1, discovery, and checkmate. So, what can we learn from this game? Well, this is an opportunity to play e5, queen f3. Okay? It's very weird, right, for some people to say I can win in the opening. It's rarely will you ever say that. Ever. Will you be like, I already won a game because my opponent played a very bad opening, gave up a lot of pieces for it, lost space for it. Well, I gave a chance. I wasn't expecting to be taken advantage of that quickly, but I knew that this pawn push that I made would come with drawbacks. Thankfully it didn't, so after a3, bishop b7, I just slowly developed, brought out my pieces, and Runinja made a Hail Mary. I sort of kept my cool, prevented white from castling, and I got my friend Runinja into a mating net. So let's go on to the next game. The next game is a Caro-Kann. It's a very interesting opening. I always like to face the Caro-Kann because I do play it myself. So after e4, c6, d4, d5, e5, c5. So this is what is called the advanced variation, but specifically the Botvinnik-Karls defense. So Botvinnik referring to who I believe is Mikhail Botvinnik, who is a previous former world champion. Very interesting player. Go check him out if you'd like to. So I played d takes c5, knight c6, knight f3. So what I'm doing is I'm saying I'm going to hold on to my extra pawn for now. And if you're going to take on f3 and take on e5, the least I can do is pin you as well. Just saying you cannot take on e5, e6. I play bishop to e3, saying I might play b4 later. I might play queen d4 later, or bishop d4 later. So Runinja plays knight to e7. I play c3, knight to g6. And now actually I have the move queen a4, but I did not spot it because at the time I was very concentrated on my simul. So if I played queen a4, I would have had this diagonal to work with, but I also would have been able to target this bishop, and that's something I missed, something I'll keep in mind for next time, and I probably will forget, but at least I should keep those in mind. Bishop d4, and now a6. So what am I doing with bishop d4? Well, I'm just saying I want to protect this pawn. You take with the knight here, I'm going to take with the bishop, and you cannot take with this guy because you are pinned. So black can't take there yet, But black has a really good move here. The move knight to h4. Just saying, I'm going to put pressure on this diagonal. I'm going to put pressure on g2. So what does white do here? Well, bishop takes, pawn takes, probably something like queen a4, just going on the attack here, and then eventually coming back with knight bd2 and king f1 or castles even. But I bet you black's going to play knight takes g2, king f1, bishop takes, and this actually might be a draw. Yeah, this is a very interesting draw. That's all I can say. Queen d7, queen takes a8, queen b5, king g1, knight f4. Wow, this is interesting. h3, queen d3. This is so deep, but I didn't know. Well, good to know. But knight h4 is a very, very, very good move to play. Just building on this pressure and using this diagonal as a way to turn the tide, turn the motivation, change the momentum from one player to another. So after a6, bishop takes, pawn takes, I played knight bd2, and all of a sudden I'm holding on to both of my pawns, right? So after knight h4 here, well, what would I do? I would play the move queen a4. The reason is because now after knight takes g2, king f1, this knight defends this knight, and that's what's most important. That's why you'll see that the evaluation bar says white is much better here, because there's no longer bishop takes f3, because knight takes f3 simply happens, or queen takes e6, king e7, and then you take back on f3, and really there isn't that much for black to play with. In this previous position, well, in the previous position, we saw knight h4, right? Bishop takes, pawn takes, queen a4. But now the bishop can take on f3. That's the difference. So in the game, bishop e7 happened. I play h3. I said, I have had enough of this diagonal. Bishop f5. I play bishop to e3. Now, I did not like the idea of the bishop coming to d3, but I said, I want to put my bishop on e3 because I want to reroute my pieces. Number one, I wanted to get my knight to d4. I wanted to push my pawn to b4, wanted to push my pawn to f4. That's what I wanted to do. However, black has the move queen b8 in this position, simply equalizing, saying, I'm going to attack this pawn, and I'm going to take e5, and all of a sudden, black is getting back the pawn, and especially with the bishop pair, black is going to benefit from this. So, in essence, bishop e3 was a slight inaccuracy. So, I played bishop e3, bishop d3 happened, also a very interesting move. I played knight to b3. Now, another move I could have played was queen to a4, and maybe queen to d4, or queen to g4 maybe. It really depends. But here, knight to b3 happened, bishop to e4, and I said, what do I want to do here, right? I wanted to repeat, but then what was my actual intention? My actual intention was queen to a4, queen to c7, queen to d4. Just centralizing queen, saying, if you go back to e4, I'm going to take. If you go back to b5, I'm going to play a4, forcing you to go to c4 and take, queen takes, right? Nothing much there. And if the bishop goes back to f5, what do? I play g4, scare you away, go back to e4, and I take. So bishop e4 happened, I took, rook d8, castles, and here I'm consolidating. And I want to show you how I consolidate, but stay tuned because I will get a next part of this. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed this analysis. Keep pursuing your curiosity, and I'll see you next time.